What's up, backpackers? I hope you're all doing well. In this video, we're going over the brand new FireMaple G2 Petrel pot, which I'm super excited about because if you've been around the channel a while, you know that the G3 Petrel pot from FireMaple has been my go-to cooking pot and I absolutely love it. So I do have a full review on the G3 pot if you're interested. I'll put it up here as well as a link in the description. So check that out, but in this video we're really going to focus on the G2. However, we will compare and contrast the two and kind of talk about which one is better used in what situations and some of the things that they upgraded on the new G2. So all that being said, let's dive in. The biggest difference you're going to notice between the two pots is going to be capacity. The maximum capacity on the G3 pot is 600 milliliters and on the G2 it's up to 750. So you get an extra 150 milliliters of water, which I think is actually really great. With the G3 pot, especially when I'm backpacking with a friend, I've noticed that when I'm boiling water for 2 dehydrated meals, I can do it, but I do have to fill it over that 600 milliliter line. And if I don't turn the stove off as soon as the water starts to boil, it will boil over and kind of overflow out of the little vents here. So I'm really excited to have that extra 150 milliliters. I don't have to worry about that anymore, and you can easily boil water for 2 meals at once. Both pots are made out of the same aluminum alloy material, which I really like because not only is it super lightweight, but it's also a really good heat conductor, which gives you some really impressive boil times on these. Now, of course, the G2 is going to be slightly heavier just because of the extra capacity. The G3 weighs exactly 5.7 ounces, and the G3 weighs 6.5 ounces. So it's less than an ounce difference between the two for that extra 150 milliliters of water, which personally I think is totally worth it. Another change they made with the G2 pot that I really like is they made it a lot wider than the G3, which is really great for a couple different reasons. First reason being is not only does it still fit your stove, which for me is the Green Peak stove from FireMaple, which is what I use for the G3 pot as well, but now it also fits a 230 gram gas canister instead of the G3 pot, which can only fit the 110 gram canister. So, especially if you're backpacking with buddies and cooking up multiple meals for multiple days, it's really nice to be able to fit that larger fuel canister in here. The other reason I really like the wider form of the G2 pot is it makes it a lot easier to cook up some ramen or other stews or soups out on the trail. That wider base just gives you a little bit more room to play with and do a little bit more cooking. Now diving into the pot a little bit more specifically here, it does still have the same locking handle that the G3 did, which I really enjoy. You just squeeze it, pull it out, it locks into place. And now there is another little difference here with the lid, which I'm really glad that they did this because I know there were some issues with some suction happening on the G3 lid when water was boiling. So they changed the lid up a little bit. Now there's just one slim vent instead of 3 on there, and it kind of pops out a little bit instead of being flush with the pot like the G3 was, which gives you just a little bit more room to put in your canister and your stove in there. So that's really great. Another thing with the pot that's a little bit different is it actually has a little pour spout, which the G3 didn't have. So even with the lid on here, you can just pour out a little bit of water at a time. Make sure that you're not spilling or dripping anything anywhere, which I think is really cool. Then the last thing to point out on here is it does still have the same heat exchanger that the G3 did, which I really enjoyed. I think the heat exchanger made a really big difference as far as boil times go. So I'm really glad that they still have that really similar heat exchanger and that it still fits perfectly on top of the Green Peak stove. As you can see, there's 3 little slits on the bottom of the heat exchanger here. That goes into the 3 ridges of the stove and locks it into place and keeps your pot nice and secure. Now I am really curious if the wider base makes any difference as far as boil times go. So we're actually going to take this outside, boil up some water, and compare the boil time speed between the G2 and the G3 when we tested that. All right, now we're going to compare the boil times from the G2 Petrel pot to the G3 Petrel pot. I did have 400 milliliters in the G3 when I did that video, so I put 400 milliliters in here as well. The G3 boiled in about 1.5 minutes, but keep in mind that it was a lot warmer when I did that. Temperatures are just about freezing here in Colorado right now, so I'm expecting this to take a little bit longer to boil anyways, but I guess we'll just have to see. I've got my stopwatch ready right here, so let's go ahead and get this going. We are boiling. All right, that took right about 1 minute and 45 seconds, so about 15 seconds longer than the G3 with the same amount of water. But like I said, it is freezing right now, and it was much warmer when I did the G3 video, so that really lines up. I honestly expected it to maybe take a little bit longer. So 1 minute and 45 to boil 400 milliliters of water, not bad at all. So as you can see, the G2 pot boiled 400 milliliters of water in 1 minute and 45 seconds. The G3 did it in 1.5 minutes, but like I said, it is much, much colder outside now than it was when I tested the G3. So take those results with a grain of salt. I think it's probably even quite a bit closer than that shows. But either way, cold weather or not, 1 minute and 45 seconds is still a really impressive boil time for 400 milliliters of water. For only $30, I think the G2 Petrel pot is an absolute steal and totally worth adding to your kit, especially if you're backpacking with a friend and want to share a cook system. Personally, if I'm going solo, I probably still will bring the G3 just to save myself that close to 1 ounce. I don't need the extra 100 milliliters of water, and so it's a little bit more compact. I'm only going to be bringing a 110 gram fuel canister anyways, so if I'm going solo, I'm probably still going to bring the G3. But if you're going out with a friend like I'm doing at the end of the month, actually next week, having something like the G2, having that extra 100 milliliters of water is really great, and for 30 bucks, I think it's just worth having anyways for when that time does come. That's going to do it for this video, guys, so please do not forget to like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video and you want to see more like it. Also, I'd love it if you dropped a comment if you have experience with the G3 or the G2 pot. I'd love to hear what you think about it. But until next time, thank you so much for watching and happy hiking.